Hey there, everybody. This is the Nice Goblin podcast, and I am your host, NiceGoblin94, joined by Hugh,
Hello, all.
and we are going to talk about some stuff we've found that we enjoy, answer a question from the old and new book of questions, and just try to get away from it all for a little bit. So grab your pork rinds and/or sandwich, and let's go. And before we jump into the reviews, I do want to go ahead and point out the obvious that Mystic is not joining me today. Uh, she's a bit under the weather, to put it mildly, and so he was going to be our designated substitute today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into what we found. I wanted to talk about the video game Carrion, uh, or Carrion, or however you say it. It came out earlier this year, back in July. It's a nice little short indie game, about 3 hours and some change that you can play through it, but it's really fun. It's described as a reverse horror video game because you actually play as the monster, and it's really fun. There's one moment where I was playing through it where uh, I had like these two guys were actually pointing their guns at the vent that I had just gone into, and I circled around and pulled one guy into the vent, and the other guy's just left standing there. I'm like, I've seen this movie before. So it is a really fun game. It's like I said, it's really quick. The controls are really smooth for movement. You just kind of glide effortlessly through the map. My only real complaints with it is whenever you're actually trying to interact with things, such as pulling the guys to you to eat and um, manipulating objects in the environment, it can be a little unintuitive, I guess. Because like if you pull, you're an amorphous blob, so you'd figure that as long as you got the guys, you know, close enough, you just start eating them. But it's actually kind of particular about where the guys are before it registers what you're trying to do. So there's been plenty of times where I'm just sitting there holding the guy, just kind of holding him close like some sort of gory teddy bear, and I'm like, oh, I have to shift it 2 inches to the left in order for my blob to actually recognize, oh, hey, it's food. It's like feeding a cat. But it's a really enjoyable game. The other complaint that I have is the lack of any sort of map. Um, it can be really difficult to navigate just because it's almost like playing one of the old Metroid games on the Super Nintendo or something like that. It's just got this very sprawling map, but if you're not careful, it's very easy to get lost. And I get that you're I get that we're playing this creature who's been in containment, and you know, I understand why we don't have a map, but it would just be nice like to have some sort of guidance. I'd settle for just like an arrow pointing in the general direction of the next goal. So that is really about it. Um, Definitely recommend it. It was on sale whenever I picked it up on Steam because of their autumn sale. I think that ends today as of recording, but it's still only about $20, give or take, whenever it's not on sale. So definitely look into picking it up if you haven't already. Um, and like I said, it's just a nice, quick little game for a day play and a little fun. So, Hugh, you want to talk about
yeah,
your
and
thing?
and I was gonna talk about My Hero, and I know it sort of sounds like one of those cringy animes where it's like, because you see like at one end of the spectrum, people are like, oh well, it's bad because it's so cringeworthy and there's so much crying and all that, and on that end I can kind of agree, but they're also wrong. And on the other end, there's the really really into it people where they ship everybody with Todoroki and Bakugo, right? They ship everybody with them, and that's and you know like the where they do like little circle dances and they have their little meet and greets, and that's where everybody sort of gets pushed away. So um, I'm definitely a fan, but sometimes not of the fan base. But I was gonna say is uh, since I've been a kid, I've always been interested in superheroes, right? Which is sort of what the show is about. And I just recently, about a year or so ago, really, really got into anime. Like I've always been sort of interested in it, but I've never actually sat down and watched one and really gotten interested in one. Um, and so this one kind of hits both the marks of my childhood likes and my more recent likes. Um, Now, when it comes to superheroes, I've always been sort of into superheroes, whether they're godlike, like Superman or the Hulk, or more realistic, and I use this loosely, like Batman or Punisher, right? Because you hear about all these feats that Batman do, so I use that term realistic really loosely. Um, so at the beginning, right, I was sort of at the beginning of the show. It's like season one. It's mostly about um our main character Izuku Midoriya, who goes by Deku, um, which I learned was a word that they use for like useless, because as kids, you sort of obtain a quirk, right? And sometimes you get the short end of the stick and you don't get a quirk, like our main guy. Um, but his all-time dream was to be a hero like All Might, who is the number one hero. So we start off like in the classroom, and he's being made fun of because he wants to go to UA, like the top prestigious hero training school. Um, but he doesn't have a quirk. Um, but later on, in the episode next, I believe, his classmate, Katsuki Bakugo, who is also his childhood friend but turned bully, um, gets caught by a villain, right? The same villain that had previously um, caught Deku, and All Might saved him. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. But when all the heroes don't know what to do, um, Deku sort of runs out there to try to save him, knowing that the heroes who are supposed to be like the saviors of the day don't know what to do, and they're standing still and frozen. He goes out there. He himself, this freshly out of middle school hero, is running towards this giant monster that none of the heroes can stop. And so that really showed that he had the quality to be a hero. Um, Now, it turns out that he may or may not have a slight advantage towards that, because he does eventually end up in UA with a quirk. I won't spoil it for any of you that um, plan to watch it or whatever. Um, but it shows that it was sort of like he's finally achieved his goal, or he's finally start on the stepping stones to achieving his goal to become his dream, because all of his life he's been told he won't be anything, or he'll just have to settle for this low end thing, and don't chase your dream, you're not going to be able to do it. um and he actually starts beginning the stepping stones, and during the entrance exam, um everybody is very, oh, that guy's going to get out, that guy's going to get out, and then he sort of stuns them with this theatrical act that he puts on, where he soars in the sky and punches a robot. And that was probably the reason why I still watch to this day, because I remember when I first saw that, I started crying, and I like, not out of sadness, but when you get like super into something, and like you're so excited, you just don't know what to do, so you start like tearing at the eye. That's
Right.
kind of what I was like. I was at like the edge of my seat, right? That 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 has to be like one of my favorite moments from the show that I've seen so far. Um, so in season one, where it's sort of he reveres All Might as this god, right? And we're supposed to understand that he's the number one hero, and nobody comes close to him. Villains can't stop him. He's all that. But the drawback is that he can only do that so long, right? Because he's in his normal form, he's injured, right? So he can only do that for so long, and that's sort of the dilemma that he has the majority of season one, where he has to balance out hero work and being the new teacher at UA, right? Because he can only do it for, I think, 3 hours at that time. Um, so that's sort of the dilemma. And Midoriya's quirk, um, when he uses it, since he doesn't really know how to use it, um, it breaks his bones. Like in the entrance exam, he jumped and then punched, and then both of his legs and his right arm were broken. So he doesn't know how to use it. But as they've been practicing and going through training, um, he's been getting better at controlling. He still breaks his bones in the first season, but that's sort of the gist of we see everybody coming together, learning to actually be heroes, or on the stepping stones of becoming heroes, and not just I have fancy quirk. Um, Now season two was a lot more. We will see some real action, like out in the world action. Like I know at the end of season one, there was a big fight between heroes and villains, and that was really cool. We saw All Might in action, which was really cool. It was probably one of my favorite fights so far. He fought what's called a Nomu, which is sort of like a zombie hero, where they have multiple quirks. But the drawback is that they can't think for themselves. They have to be ordered around, right? So like he has to be ordered to go fight, or else he'll just stand there. But once he gets fighting, he knows he's like, I have to kill, and if they're not dead, my order isn't complete. Um, but at the end of that, like they go into they go what they call internships. So they go and they get picked by heroes to sort of learn the ropes per se. And I know they fight a major villain there, but they've got all these experience in class 1A, sorry, where they have fought, so they know a little bit ahead of their peers, um, how to not hesitate. But essentially, I'm sort of rambling off topic here. I think the entire story is really cool. How um, Deku is finally realizing his dream, and he's finally able to put forth an effort to become what he wants to be, a hero. Everybody can feel safe around him to save others, like his inspiration All Might does. Um, and I think a lot of the interactions he has with other characters at his school, right, are really cool. Like he becomes a hero in the normal sense that he helps his friends with their everyday struggles. Like I know, for instance, Todoroki, Icy Hot. He doesn't want to use his left side because that's fire, and that's his father's thing, and he doesn't like his father. But during a fight, he Deku mentioned to him that it's not his quirk, it's yours. Like that is part of you, not him, it's you. And then that was when he, for the first time in an actual fight, used his left side, which amazed everybody because up until that he had only used his ice power. So he sort of saved him in the sense that he should go all out and be able to do as much as he can without holding back because of some past trauma. Now, granted, there's obviously work on top of that because you can't get rid of that um, with just saying a few words or whatever. But and then there was other times where his friends, right? His friends come and save him, and he learns that not all heroes can do everything themselves. That they have people behind them, and you know I just think in that aspect it's a good show, right? Now, my real only complaint, and this is what I said this earlier, that he cries a lot. Our main guy, he cries a lot over small things. Like he talked to a girl and he cried. He got he he realized that he got into UA, and which is this you know heartbreaking moment, or tear stringing moment where he finally gets in, and he just bawls and cries. He cries so much, and that's a little complaint I have. Like, I've shown other people have watched it with me, and they've just said that he cries a little too much, and they even sort of poke at that in the show, that he cries so much. Um, Another thing I have a problem with is they revere All Might as such this grand character, but we don't ever really see him like in action, right? I wish we saw him more in action. Now, I've watched up till season 3, so I know what happens to him, but I wish we had more action with him, right? Because we get so I know that the show is focused around um Deku and gang, but I would because we see so many of the other teachers in so much action that I wish we had seen All Might in that. Now, granted, I think a lot of that has to do with his time thing, where he can only work for who knows how long. But that sort of I wish I saw more of him. Now that's just my thing. I know they have reasons as to why. But I think I think a lot of the character building, all the friendships, a lot of the realizations that being a hero isn't just flashy moves and looking cool. It's a lot of hard work and training, and they're finally learning, and his class and whatnot are finally learning that it takes a lot to become a hero. They get put through so many trials, right? Like a lot of endurance, a lot of late weightlifting, a lot of quirk training. Um, I know they went to a camp, a secret camp, sort of, where they sort of abused their quirk usage so that they could use their quirks for longer. And just going through all that hell and then realizing that they've become so much stronger than what they were prior kind of inspires me to work on myself a little bit, right? Sort of get out there, do something. And I feel like this is a little silly, but it would be a good show to watch um while working out, right? It sort of gives you the extra drive to sort of go and go plus ultra, they say. um Another critique I have is the fact that every time I see a villain fight, they don't seem to have a drawback. They have a weakness, right? Because obviously they have to be defeated somehow, but they don't have as much of a drawback, right? Like, we all know Bakugo has grenade hands, right? But a lot of that has to come from his hands sweating, right? He has to sweat because he can light that up like nitroglycerin, he said, and just sort of, he explodes that. Um, but it takes a lot of his muscles, like a lot of force from his muscles to do so. So if he does it for too long, he hurts his arms, right? Or even like like I said, Deku earlier, he breaks his bones in the first season, right? But every time I see a villain fight, it's like they don't have any drawback whatsoever, right? And it may just be they're not pointing it out because we don't get the voiceover or whatever. But they just seem to be, it's either they find the weakness, like a soft spot, or they just overpower them completely, which is cool sometimes. But I mean, I wish there was sort of the the thought process behind the villain as well. Like, how we get the thought process of, like, the protagonist uh planning out their strategy mid fight or whatever. But I wish there was sort of like an inner dialogue of the hero of the villains, because they just seem like they're so unstoppable, right? Like, they have no weakness either than getting, punched in the face or thrown in handcuffs, right? And I hope, because I haven't seen all of it yet, right? Like I said, I've only seen up to season 3. I hope that we can sort of get more of that. We notice weaknesses in enemies later. Like, we see part of the drawback. Like, it's not always we have to overpower them. We just have to outlast them till we can tie them up.
I see what you're
Um,
saying.
but overall, I find the show great. I cry a little too much just because I get so excited, because it's that superhero anime that it would be something I'd like as a kid, right?
Right.
And I started watching this during a really rough time, right? I had obviously been left by my girlfriend. She had cheated on me and left, and I was just sort of like, I didn't feel like I was all there, right? I just sort of felt shallow and sad and angry, because I don't know why. But then I started watching this show, and it reminded me of that superhero aspect that I liked as a kid, and it brought me back to a happier time. So I might have a little bias towards it, but overall, it's a really good show. Everybody that I've shown has said that it's really good. Um, please don't listen to the fan base, most of them, because the ones that are outspoken that you hear from are the ones that ship everybody with, grenade hands or Todoroki, and the other group that says, "Oh, it's bad because it's dumb." The whole, can you beat Goku squad?
Yeah. See, the only thing that I really know about My Hero, I watched like 2 or 3 episodes once and then got distracted by something shiny. I know All Might. I dig how he names all of his power or all of his attacks after states.
Yeah.
Like he's got Texas. I remember I was texting a friend of mine who had tried to get me into it, and I was like, I mean, I see how it's kind of cool, but and then like as I'm sending that text, All Might comes on and is like Texas Smash, and listeners will know that I'm from Texas, and I'm just like, did
Hmm.
did he just name this attack after my state? All right, I'm down.
Yeah, he's got Detroit Smash, Carolina Smash, Texas Smash, Oklahoma Smash, and the United States of Smash. I don't know why they're so middle of the United States, like Oklahoma, Texas,
You know what? I
and
dig it because every other source of media, like you always hear about California or New York,
mhm,
so I
mhm.
dig that Texas and Oklahoma and the quote unquote flyover states are getting some love, especially from
Yeah,
something from Japan. So I
yeah,
dig it.
something so popular over there as well. Um, but yeah, I like a lot of the. Oh, and I watch it. I know I'm gonna get flack for this, but I watch it in dub. Um,
Uh,
the whole, you watch anime in dub. Like, okay,
we
but
don't judge here.
but the voice acting for a lot of the characters is really good. The way that they yell. Um, I know All Might's voiced by Christopher Sabat, the guy that does Vegeta, Piccolo, um, that sort of thing. He
I did not.
he's All Might.
I did not realize
Um,
that.
um, Endeavor, the number two hero, probably one of my favorite characters because of his arc that I know about. Um, he's voiced by my favorite voice actor, Patrick Seitz, and he does stuff like he did Dio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, part 1 and 3. He did um he did a couple World of Warcraft characters, like he did Arthas before he became the Lich King, and he did Garrosh Hellscream. And so when I hear that voice, like because I seen him fight once or twice. When I hear that voice, it's so cool. The way that he brings out like this big hot head fiery side of Endeavor is so I get goosebumps. I get goosebumps. But I know the voice actor in the sub version for All Might also did God, what was his name? He was from part 3, the Phoenix guy. I don't remember. Um but I know he did some pretty interesting um
All I know is you said that Endeavor was the number 2 hero.
mhm.
All I could think of was I kind of wish they'd gotten Sean Schemmel to voice him since Sean voices Goku
All
and
right.
Chris voices Vegeta. It'd be really funny to me to have Goku being the number 2 to Vegeta for once.
Yeah, yeah.
But well, I'll tell
Yeah.
you what. While you think of the other work from that one guy, we'll move on to the book of questions. We'll start off with the original book. And question 14: would you rather be extremely successful professionally and have a tolerable yet unexciting private life, or have an extremely happy private life and only a tolerable and uninspiring professional life?
Um Obviously with that question there's two sides of the coin with that, right?
Right?
Your extremely successful professional life, right? Um I know at least in the States a lot of our time is spent at work. We spend a good, a lot of time at work for what, 50 plus years, and then we hopefully retire, right? And so in that aspect of my whole life, in that aspect sort of revolving around this extremely successful professional life would be great, but then in my personal life would be kind of, my relax from work um would just kind of be tolerable, right? In the sense that, I just kind of go home and watch TV, sometimes hang out with friends, and by hang out I mean, like, we go and for eat at a restaurant and then sort of go our ways afterwards. But the professional aspect I think would be kind of nice. But what do you do when you retire? Because or hopefully retire, right? Like you don't have that professional life anymore, which is where the happy life would kick in, and the tolerable and uninspiring professional life. So with the private life being extremely happy, I feel like you would be often more in a better mood, right? Because you get to sort of do what you want to do, um, and be happy with what you do. In the sense that, I go and hang out with my friends, and we have a great time, and and then I can go to work and you know sort of recharge in a sense because I'm very introverted. Um, but I think personally mine would have to be happy private life and tolerable, uninspiring professional life because at the end of the day I can just go in and work and get my money and leave, right? And then I can go and use that money to pay for house, all that stuff, and then have live my happy private life, and then because like I said earlier, like when I retire, um that professional life's going to be gone, and so I'd have to, I'd rather have the happy life after that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Uh,
See, I feel like for me, since I am trying to make a living out of a podcast and trying to get some sort of clout on Twitch and whatnot, uh, I feel like for me it'd almost be the opposite. That I would rather have the successful professional life and a tolerable yet unexciting private life, because you notice a lot of the Twitch streamers and a lot of the big internet stars, they fall into traps and whatnot with their personal life coming into their, like they do something wrong in their personal life and it comes out, and then all of a sudden their fan base turns on them. So I feel like having a unexciting private life uh, while trying to make it online would be a bit of a boon, you know?
Right. I guess that's one way I didn't look at it. So that makes sense because you don't you don't want your exciting personal life to take over your work life.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think I was kind of putting myself in that situation because I don't really have any plans for like a social media um professional life. Um and that's not a strike towards you, and I
uh,
wish you the best,
yeah, no, it's
but
cool.
I mean it's just, I don't see myself doing that, right? Like
And yet
but
you're
what but
appearing
what
on a
but
podcast with me.
right, but what you did make a lot of sense where, you would like your exciting professional because you can do podcasts for God knows how long until like, you get so old that you can't remember, you know, what you ate for breakfast.
Right. As long as I'm
So,
semi cognizant, I can run a
right,
podcast.
right. Um, but yeah, no, that's. I feel like that was a pretty good answer. Pretty good answer. I kind of went linear minded with that, but I
Well, and
feel like those
that's,
are pretty fair answers.
yeah, it's different strokes for different folks, you know? Like you said, you are really introverted. You don't see yourself making a career out of social media or podcasting or anything like that. So your answer makes sense for you. My answer makes sense for me. So it's not like the glorious things about the book of questions is there's no real right or wrong answer. It's just your answer works for you, my answer works for me, you know?
Right.
So on to the revised question because I feel like we've thoroughly given our reasons for why we chose the other one or why we chose our answer for the other one. If the person you were engaged to was in a car crash and became paraplegic, would you back out of the marriage? If not, what if they became a quadriplegic? And as a extra little spice to it, what if you found that the person you plan to marry would likely get Alzheimer's by his or her 50th birthday?
Um.
So
So
let's start
are
with the
we?
car crash. We'll hold off on the Alzheimer's one, but you're engaged to somebody and they're in a car crash and become a paraplegic. Uh, would you back out?
I feel like if I've already gone the course to engage with someone, in the sense that we're going to get married, um, I feel like I've bonded with them on the level that, you know, because I know some people, and I've heard of some cases where they sort of back out because they don't want to deal with the pressure, and I know it's kind of messed up, but I know some cases where they back out because the sex life would be pretty bad afterwards. Um, but I feel like if I've made the commitment to get engaged to someone, I feel like if they become a paraplegic, that's still the person I plan to marry, right? Whether they can get around by themselves or not, like that's what I'm here for. I'm here to take care of them. I love them to the extent that I would do anything for them. They haven't changed as a person. That's
Right.
still them. They just can't get around. They rely on me a little more. And what's the point of you know getting married if you're not going to help who you marry,
Yeah.
right? You build together. That is what you do. Like not even just marriage, but just as like a couple, you build together. You take that walk of life together. Now sometimes obviously, in relationships you break off and you go off on your own again, but while to the point to where you get engaged, you've obviously walked that step of life together. You've built what you have together. Say you bought a house together. You may or may not have started a family already, but you've bought cars together. You have your insurance and all that. You build that together, and in the sense that they become a paraplegic, that's still them, right? Like that's still someone I love. That won't change them. So I feel like I would not back out, because I almost feel like backing out would be like for shallow reasons. Now there might be something, but I couldn't think of anything that wouldn't be messed up in a sense like that.
Alright, so I feel like I already know your answer for this, but if they became a quadriplegic, so they lose the use of both their arms and legs, same answer? You still sticking with them?
Yeah, yeah,
Alright, that's fair. I'm really in the same. Well, let me rephrase that. I'd like to say that I'm in the same boat. I'd like to say that, oh yeah, if I'm engaged, like if I'm already to the point where I'm wanting to marry them, that I would be the same way that I would stick with them. But I really don't know because I can barely take care of a house plant, let alone another human being like that needs me that much. I want to say that, oh yeah, absolutely, I would be there for them, but in all honesty, until I'm actually in that situation, I don't know. Like that is, I'm going to say that I would be there for them, that I wouldn't back out of the marriage, but I don't know about the just I don't know how happy it would be, you know? And that's what would kind of concern me.
right,
Just cuz like I said, I'm very bad at taking care of like I can barely take care of myself some days. So having
right,
the all that extra responsibility, I legitimately don't know. Uh, Quadriplegic, it's the same situation. I want to think that I'd be able to step up, but if I'm being honest, I don't know.
right. I think.
And oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say this. I think with my answer, um, I personally like the idea of taking care of someone, right, relationship wise, like that. I feel like taking care of them, sometimes spoiling them and being there for them is sort of a driving stone in the relationship for me, right? And I know that it's all fun and games at first, but with the paraplegic or the quadriplegic, it would be a lot more. And I think knowing that I've done everything I can for them and making them happy would make me happy. I know that may or may not sound selfish, but I think making them happy after such a accident like that would make me happy. Whether because it's obviously not going to be easy. Like that's a lot of work. But I think at the end of the day, as hopefully as they're happy, that I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I've I've stepped up and I've sort of taken the charge, and I've made them happy. Because obviously, you know, at first it's going to be pretty traumatic, right? Like you can't walk anymore, you can't move your limbs anymore, and you rely on someone else to move around and even go to the bathroom, right? But I think taking care of them and making them the happiest they can be is almost the least that I can do. You know what I mean? But I mean, I do understand your stance on, uh like how you said you sometimes you can't take care of yourself, or you couldn't even take care of a house plant, and how unhappy that would be. Because there's going to be those rocky days where they get upset about, all that happening, and how they feel almost how they would inevitably almost feel bad about it. Like
yeah,
they'd feel like it was their fault that I was unhappy. And so you just gotta reassure them that it's not, you know you know what I mean.
yeah. No,
I I've Yeah.
I get what you're saying. And like I said, I would like to think that I would. I'm kind of at that point where it's like only a Sith deals in absolutes. Like I don't want to say 100%. Oh yeah, sure, I'd definitely be there because I know that I'd have that hang up of like and especially if I was even tangentially related to the reason of the car crash. Oh, I don't know. if that would, like, I don't know how well that would work for me. But uh, moving on, what if you found out that the person you plan to marry was likely to get Alzheimer's by their 50th birthday?
I don't. I know my great grandpa had Alzheimer's, and I am that sort of it broke my heart because there were times where he wouldn't remember who I was or he couldn't recognize me, but then like he would eventually remember who I was. Um, and I think at that point, um, I think my statement would probably still stand. Like that's still someone I love. I don't want them to be off on their own. It's but I think my point from the last one still kind of stands. Like that's still someone I've loved, countless years,
Right.
right? Like I want to make sure that I'm coming across that it's not something that I'm not coming off as like, oh, well, it's easy. I'll just take care of him. It's like there's obviously a lot of work that goes into that,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, like, I feel like I've made the commitment. If I knowingly knew, then obviously I would have to know that there was that going to be that extra set, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
No.
I'd have to be prepared because I mean it does say likely, so there's the off chance that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But
That's
you
true.
know, um, if it does happen, you would have to be prepared by that time, right? Depending on when you are told that is, like if you're both like in your late 40s and it's like, oh well, they're gonna be likely have Alzheimer's by their 50. That's obviously less time um to prepare. But I mean, I guess it does say plan to marry, so I guess you would be a little bit younger than that. So you would definitely have time to sort of prepare for that if you were willing to make that commitment.
That's kind of where I'm thinking because I figure I'm 26. I'm sure that whoever I end up planning to marry would be around my age. So we'll say between 25 and 27, somewhere in there. I could definitely see, that gives us 20 plus years to prepare and make memories. So I'd be more inclined to uh, be okay with that one, just because that is still more time for us to build and live our lives and whatnot. Uh, but I've seen the effects of Alzheimer's, and it's really heartbreaking, like you said.
Hmm.
And anybody that's listened to some of the earlier episodes knows that to me, memories are really important and really a big thing for me. So the idea of losing your faculties and losing sight of all that and losing who you are and who your friends are is a terrifying prospect to me. Um, that's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But I feel like, yeah, I'd be more inclined to go through with, like, let me rephrase that. I'd be more apt to say with certainty that I'd be willing to go through with it, knowing that they likely have Alzheimer's by their 50th. Just because, like you said, it's more time to plan and prepare, you know?
Hmm.
But we got a little heavy on this episode, didn't we? Shoot.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is what it is. That happens here at the Nice Goblin podcast. But thank you for tuning in this week, y'all. You can follow me on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter, links for which will be in the description. Hugh, where can the good people follow you on?
You can follow me on Twitch at Hugh Jazz capital O1. Um, And then my Instagram is also this is all lowercase, so it's doctor period underscore professor underscore Spencer, and Spencer's my real name. Um,
Oh, way to dox
so
yourself,
that
man.
oh well, whatever. But that's my Instagram. If we had face cams, I'd turn around and be like, if you want to follow me, this is what I look like from behind. Uh-huh.
Right.
Anyway.
Nope. No webcams here because I would break mine just like it would turn on to record and smash itself.
Come on now.
And actually, I did just get a haircut, so I'm looking a little bit better than usual today.
Oh.
So, anyway, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, y'all take it easy.